Hi, Sandy.
Amy, happy Halloween and happy belated Halloween to everybody when they listen to this.
Right, right. We're going in out of October and into November, which is crazy that it's already that time of the year.
I think just such is life anymore. I just look back every time I get time hop and last Halloween, the Halloween before, and 5 Halloweens since I've had kids at home. And yeah, life just keeps on a going. And I don't
Right.
know if there's ever been a Halloween I haven't enjoyed though.
I know they're always fun.
Yeah,
It's fun to see. They're doing, our complex is doing like pet costume contest and door decorating contest and
fun.
all sorts of stuff. It's very fun.
Yeah, they had a trunk or treat in the neighborhood. And a friend of mine that's moved here from Ohio, her kids are about the same age. And, all the years of taking our kids out and about, we volunteered. So it was a ton of fun dressing up, giving out candy, helping get everything ready.
Right.
We really had no connections with the littles. We weren't getting any of the littles ready for it. We were just enjoying them.
Right. That's fun. That would be very fun to do.
It was fun. And
And
we're
not have to juggle your own children, just get to enjoy everybody.
take it all in, and I'm going to put the
Yeah.
costume on tonight and we're going to go down. They don't, most kids don't go to door here. They go down to downtown Durango and they have a big downtown party for the kids. So we're just going to go and I'm going to bring my leftover candy and have
Great.
fun. Get a beer at the end.
Very fun. That's great. So today we're talking about getting a beer reminded me that our conversation is about how to spend $1 million. And there's some constraints around this. If you had $1 million to spend, and what are the constraints? Like you have to do it in a month,
You have to do
right?
them up. Okay, I'm going to give you a little background story to
Okay.
why
All
there
right.
are constraints before we jump in. So
Okay.
just because the constraints kind of got added on to make the conversation a little bit better. So where the question came from, the title of our discussion today is, what would you do with $1 million? I took my aunt, who is in her late 70s, to a movie, and um she's had her health issues, and she had some, she can, she followed along enough. We got done with the movie. Did you enjoy the movie? And one of the parts of the movie was, and it was an indie movie, was the question being asked to an older lady, what would you do if you had $1 million? And the lady answered without any hesitation, I would build a community pool. And I thought, well, that's an interesting comment. So after the movie, I was driving my aunt around and we were talking, checking out things in Omaha. And I asked her the question, well, you heard that. They asked her, what would you do with $1 million? What would you do with $1 million? Without even hesitating, she said, I would give it to my sister because she's done so much for me. And which I thought is very sweet. But what I found is, I like interesting conversations. Just ask a question. Most people answered by giving it away, right? Or saving it. And because of that, I thought, oh, what an interesting question. And I added it to our topics because I then asked my mom and, would ask kids, ask my beautician. But what I found is you needed to add some parameters around it, because people tended to say, I'll save it, I'll put it away for retirement, or I'll give it all away. So the parameters were, you can't save it. You have to spend it in a month. So that's where that came from. Okay. Got to be spent in a month. And then another parameter was you have to spend at least a quarter of it on yourself. And I kind of mixed two. I said it has to be spent within a month, and none of it could be invested for later. Even though
Which,
it's funny, like that's the one that people will kind of, stretch a little bit, is a
right.
prepayment and
Right.
investment, but that's
Define
okay.
invest.
This is, we're not the fairy who said, this is, this is still dreamland, right?
Right.
But every time I brought it up, I've heard very interesting comments and a good conversation. And it brought up, for me, being a value consultant, asking the question in these ways also, it's brings people to what they value, right?
Right.
Because you have that $1 million, what are you going to spend it on? So I always call them value indicators. When people are like, gosh, do I take a test, or how do I do this? And I have some simple value indicators. that can help guide you in that way. And I've actually added this question to my list of value indicators because it does show that. And so the example I'll give is for my aunt. You know, we could all answer for her and say, well, she lives alone. She lives in a studio apartment. Doesn't she want a big house? Doesn't she want to be by people? Well, the funny thing about my Aunt Joan is when we were going to get her in assisted living, she's like, I don't want to be by people all the time. I just want to be in a studio apartment. I mean, that isn't something she valued, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But you know what she does value? She values her independence. So her answer, after we talked it through, and I said, you have to spend on yourself, she said, I'd really like a car again, but I don't want to really mess with it. So her part that she'd spend on herself would be a nice car that's easy to get in and out of, and a really good driver that at the snap of a finger, he would show up and take her where she wanted to go, when she wanted to go. And basically the rest of her money would be to prepay the driver, maintenance, gas, everything for life. So she never had to worry about it. So kind of like a personalized Uber for life.
Right. And that gives her freedom,
Right.
which is what she values.
Is what she values. So it was just, and she got kind of excited. And she said, then I'll give the rest to my sister. And I'll give a little bit to my brother, my other brothers and sisters too. But I mean, she really shined and we had just a lot of fun talking about it. So, you know, I gave her answer. And then one more thing. So then I took this statement with these parameters and I posted it on our social channels for Your Real, Your Ideal. I put it on Insta and Facebook. And then I also put it on LinkedIn, my Facebook, my Insta, Threads, and then I attached it to my newsletter. And I don't want to pick favorites, but I got to tell you, I think the answer I got back, I said, email me with your answer. I got a beautiful answer back, which I'm going to table for last, from my newsletter. So, yeah, the thing I love most in life is celebrating the human soul. And these answers just filled my heart with joy to hear what filled other people with joy. So,
Right.
and it does, and it can, none of them, nothing's petty. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to change the world, just what the joy and the response and what was important to them. So Amy, what is your answer to the question?
Well, I'm just going to tell you, it's very hard because the word you can't invest, because to me, I was like, all right, I would buy a beach house, but is that an investment? If
there are a
that's
lot of people that said beach house, retirement house, especially of our age. That was a comment.
It's just like
I
a
would say
fun
no.
place to go. Yeah.
It's buying a house.
I know it's kind of an investment though.
But if you buy anything that gives you joy, Amy, that's an investment in yourself, isn't it?
Yes, completely.
Whether you can resell it or not. I mean, I was told there's a $5,000 purse you can buy that goes up in value. It's appreciated. So is that an investment?
I know I wouldn't do the purse, but
I'm just telling you, I was told that.
I started listing experiences though that I would want to do. And so I'm thinking if I had to spend it in a month, I would be prepaying for all these experiences. So I'd be buying tickets. Like I would love to go see Taylor Swift in concert, you know, but like to travel to wherever she's at to get the ticket, you know, it's thousands of dollars. And so it's just not going to happen. So, but that would be something, trips, you know, I had all these trips that in my head, I was like, oh, I would like put those all on my list. And then I was getting dressed this morning and I was like, I think I would buy a whole new wardrobe. I would get a stylist to help me like,
that's a great idea.
Whole wardrobe and just start fresh and like
the colors, the style,
exactly. And just
that'd be a fun
feel good. I know it would be fun and make me feel good. But then the stuff to give away, that was hard too, because, you know, part of it was like, oh, I would give it to my children and figure out a way to help give them a good start. But then I started thinking about, you know, food banks. I would, you know, to help people in need is just be fed. So food. And then the other thing that I think about a lot are these kids in foster care who age out of the system,
Mhm.
and just trying to help that 18 to 25-year-old kid that doesn't have a family, have some sort of safety net. And I don't know what that would look like, if it's a scholarship but that's something that I was like, I know there could be more done there. So that's kind of my stuff. But I will tell you, I asked a few people these questions, just one-on-one asking, and I didn't get anybody who was like, oh, I do that. A lot of people are like, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. And
Really?
yeah, it was interesting that yeah, there was lots of thought. And I had to think about it for a long time too. I didn't know the answer right away.
I think sometimes, oh, here we go. I think sometimes because I get excited and I share like my Aunt Joan's story or mine, I'm kind of baiting them a little bit because now maybe I've given them the grace to say what they think and not feel like, oh, it's not changing the world,
Right.
or like,
Yeah.
because none of mine have to do with giving to the food bank or otherwise. And I would just say I've given a lot of money to charities over the years, and
Yeah.
there's just nothing that's the top of my radar. And the interesting thing, and I think this is so true, I was getting my pedicure yesterday, and my pedicurist is I don't even know if that's a word, but I like it. She
Sounds good.
I think she's Zach's age. I think I asked her maybe a little bit younger, so either late 20s or 30, and she has a little boy. And she made the comment to me, if $1 million isn't that much anymore. And she didn't mean it bad, but she had thought about it. She said, well, she was looking into a school. Her son has some special needs. She's like, that school is $100,000 a year.
Oh
So
my
she
gosh.
wouldn't blow, she's just like, gosh, there's so many things that are so expensive. And I suppose from her age versus ours, where we're more looking at the retirement home, she's looking at, wow, how many years of school, then high school, then caring, so isn't it interesting, the comment of $1 million doesn't go that far anymore, if
Right.
you really think about it, of compounding expenses when you're 30, right?
Right.
So that was interesting too, about $1 million. So then you get a little bit more greedy with it, because when I was doing the math in my head on the 75%, that wasn't for me. My big thing was I would love to put, let's just say, half down for each of the boys for a house. That would be basically, they'd have to go through all the math of what would be affordable on their salary right now. They
Right.
they'd have full ownership in it, but I'd pay for half of it. The rest would be a mortgage, half or maybe a little bit more, but they definitely have a mortgage, and then pay for just getting the furniture, the washer, the dryer, nothing extravagant, but that one-time expense. And then they're on their own after that. And I just think about my dad, and I always talk about this, about how not having debt is just, it's a big freedom. And you could put in a savings account for them, you could give them a hunk of money, but I thought the thing that would be most meaningful to them, regardless if they move, is to have that investment, because the investment, the property and the equity, but then still have some skin in the game. And I don't know that math, but I have a couple who live in Denver, so it wouldn't take long, right?
Right. Yeah. But I love that idea of giving, and that's what I was thinking with my kids, give them some sort of foundational investment that gives them a
That they can
little bit
feel
of a
and
head
enjoy
start. Like
than
I
just
just,
having this cash in an account.
yes, because I remember being that age and just feeling so poor, like, and knowing how important it was to be saving and investing. And we knew it was so important, but it was also like we were buying things. We were buying the washer and dryer. We were buying the house. We
All
were
that
buying
stuff adds up. I mean,
all that stuff. Yes.
Amy, when we were that age, do you remember we all had the friends? And I mean, it was me for a while too, that had many empty rooms because you couldn't afford the furniture yet. Like, they just bought their first house. They're so excited. How many housewarming parties did you go to that had at least one or two rooms that had no furniture in them?
Completely.
Right?
Yes. We had that for a long time at our first house. I still remember we went from a 900 square foot apartment, or and I don't even think it was, I don't even know if it was 900 to like a 1,800 square foot house. And it was like, okay, we've got all sorts of empty space. But acquiring all that stuff. And so my kids were at the top of my mind of how could you set them up for some success? And I love your idea of having skin in the game of that also.
Paying for it, they're picking it, they're doing the ongoing expenses, that whole, it's getting away from the trust fund kid, getting a handout, having the money, it's that, because there's an education process in
Yes.
owning something and maintaining and what's it worth.
Yeah.
And
I remember when we had to do a down payment for our house because we were building a house, our very first house. We had just both started working, and we didn't have the cash for the down payment. Like, we didn't have it in our hand, but we knew like in 6 months we would have it. We could save it, it would be there. And my parents wrote a note to the lender saying that they would cover it if we didn't have it. So it was like, they were gonna be our, and I was like, that was such a wonderful gift. And they didn't have to do anything because we ended up having the money, but it was such a nice security blanket to have that and have that support. Yeah.
My dad made the comment, he, back to the $1 million and our kids and, how to get that to them and blah, blah, blah. And he made the comment, he had given us some gifts and, bigger than a typical, Christmas gift. And his comment was, man, it's sure a lot of fun to give money away when you're alive than when you're dead.
Yeah.
And so, because he just, it was enough that it was like, oh my God, that's really nice. And he's like, and when I was thanking him, he said, so many people, because of course you're doing that, you're doing your legacy planning and you're waiting and here's what everybody has. But he said, I'm glad I did this. This was fun. And I thought that's a good thing to remember. And there's a fine line with that, right?
Yeah.
But being able to enjoy it as the giver, you're not on your deathbed saying, oh God, enjoy that, write me a little note on how that goes for you.
My mom did the same thing one year. She gave us, I don't know how much it was, but it was a very nice gift. And it was bigger than like
the bread box.
And it was like, yeah, it was like, all right, what do we want to do? And one of her requirements was like, okay, I really want you to enjoy this, not just put it away. Like, not just put it in savings or, let the kids eat it up, because that's kind of what we were at the point of our life that we were in. And so we ended up remodeling a bathroom because it was a nice chunk of money that we were like, oh, well, let's do the bathroom. And she got to watch it and she got to see how we enjoyed the space and how excited we were. And so she said kind of the same thing, how much fun it is to be able to do that and get to see people enjoy the money.
And that's a good reminder too, because not that I guess we could, but we could, giving somebody money, $1 million or otherwise, and putting some requirements on it that they enjoy it is an extra gift, because look at how much fun you guys had. You could say, well, how fun is that? You're redoing a bathroom, but you put thought to it. You knew you had to spend it on yourself. And that's part of this fun too, is that when people answered, they couldn't just say, I'm going to start a foundation, I'm going to invest, I'm going to give it to my kids. They had to spend some of it on themselves.
Right. Which is kind of something that we don't think about a lot.
So can I read you some of these? Can I read you some of these answers?
I would love to hear some of the answers.
Okay. So let me just make sure So I like this. The very first one, if real estate would be considered an investment, because I think he's saying real estate. He'd do real estate, but if it's considered an investment, then he would say vacations, friends and family in that order, which I like, friends, then family, then helping family out, friends that have an immediate need. So it sounds like big vacations, that include friends and family. That's one thing, if you have a month, do a couple big blowouts, right? And
my gosh, that would be so fun.
Because mine, for what we'd spend on us, the first one was do a month in Europe, and spare no expense on making sure that the transfers and the tours and somebody was guiding us around.
Mhm.
And just try to hit as many places where we're not exhausted, just do whatever we could. But for us, it's all about the experience. We don't have, it doesn't have to be high-end hotels, or it's more maximizing the time with what we're getting out of it. So a full month.
Yes. Um,
One said purchase a new animal shelter for a current shelter called Forever Homes, and then get myself a vacation home.
Nice.
This one, of course, he's works in finance. Subtract off my RMD, which is required minimum distribution when you are
Right.
then invest in a charitable trust. He's using the word invest, so he's really pushing the envelope here that my wife and I oversee. And then somebody actually said that'd be my dream too. I want this one. So a charitable trust that they're overseeing. Okay,
Mhm.
that's somebody, that's what the good accountants are finding loopholes on how to do things.
Right.
This Heather said, buy a house for my parents. And I'm like, oh, how wonderful is that?
Yes.
Buy a house for my parents, go on an amazing vacation to the East Coast to show my husband where I grew up, pay off our house, buy a newer car, money left over, buy a second home. I'm like, okay, she's thought this out. I like it.
Case, yeah.
Um, build a final home and furnish it. This is a friend that's our age. Donate to animal rehabs and rescues. Donate to organizations promoting teaching literacy. So she is very specific,
Wow.
like you're very
Yeah,
specific in charitable needs. She's really thought that through.
right.
Pay off our home and daughter's medical school loans, with the rest going to a charitable donor advisor fund. Anne had the same idea I had. She has two sons. She says, buy each of my sons a house, then buy a retirement house someplace for my hubby and I.
Yeah.
Buy a forever home. So I think that means a home for her and the dogs.
Yes.
Pay to finish the renovation in my daughter's home. Pay for my grandkids' college, and then take a nap. I haven't slept since 1956.
I love it.
Is that
So
not great?
I'm noticing a lot of just basic essentials like homes,
Right.
college,
Loans,
paying
debt
for
freedom,
loans, and yes, yeah, the creating a debt-free environment.
create a lot of creating a debt-free environment. And
Yeah.
again, I feel like people were answering this pretty quick. So it wasn't, hey, I'm sure everybody's going to throw in a few guilty indulgences, whether it's the purse, the skis,
Right.
the wardrobe,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to do, okay, how much is left? Now I'm going to go buy that
Yeah.
one. We all have that one thing, right?
Yeah. Right.
That was the other thing with my
Yeah.
pedicurist, which I don't know if it's a word. I said, everybody has that, like, my husband loves to buy long sleeve t-shirts, like the dry fit.
Uh-huh.
He has no more room for them. I'm always buying jewelry. I mean, again, they're not large purchases, but everybody
Right.
has that
Right.
one thing that they keep
Yeah.
buying more of, but they don't need. Hers are tennis shoes. So what's yours
The one thing that I don't need
that you keep
probably
buying, that you
that I keep
really,
buying is probably just clothes in general. Like I am always churning my clothes. And so I would say that's probably it. Yeah. Yeah.
retirement condo was another one.
Yeah. Nice.
See, and like for me, hell no, because I've moved too much, that the thought of a second, as long as if it's not a second home, no second homes for me. I I have reached the max, more than one home. All those years, Garrett and I back
Yeah.
and forth, we're just
Yeah.
no second home, main home, Airbnb, rentals. I'm good.
If I had a beach house, I would live in it. Like that would be, and you know what? I would say with that money, I would just say, done, we're retiring. Like just having that little bit of
Right.
cash in hand. Of course, we'd have to spend it in a month. So
Well, spend it. We learned how to, how to do all these rules, because where I was bending the rule was, I love all my landscaping changes seasons, but it takes a lot of work and I don't have all the knowledge. Like I really need to take some classes. I would prepay a landscaper or gardener to just, I mean, I don't care, come out twice a week, but make sure everything is weeded, kept up, bright, add new things, and just have me have my landscaping to enjoy without working on it. But I'm really pushing the envelope on that one because I'm
With the prepaying, yes.
the whole
I was thinking
prepaying.
about that with all my trips. I would be prepaying for all these trips because I couldn't do them all in a month.
Hey, there are rules. We can, we can push the envelope wherever we want, right?
Buying tickets, yeah, there are rules, exactly.
See, I think there's another one here. Hold on. Notifications. Da, da, da. Okay, Jean said, I don't need stuff. It'd be all about experiences and time with family and friends, no stuff.
Yeah. Yes. I will tell you, so Tom's mom did, or his parents, I would say, started doing family trips many years ago. And I cannot remember what our first one was, but that was the greatest gift that they ever gave us because it was almost once a year, every other year, they would rent a place in some wonderful location and we just all had to get there. And then the week was on them. And
Nice.
it was such a nice family time. And I would love to be able to do that every year for my family because it was such a gift to have all the cousins together and just very fun.
And a way around that is to buy like one of those timeshares that you could go to different places and prepay it, right?
Right. I love a way around those rules.
Way too many times in public accounting. Okay, can I read the email that I got this morning?
Oh, I would love that. Yes.
So, and I'll just throw it out there. Anybody wants to join my newsletter list, I do a weekly roundup that just has the story in it, the link to this podcast, for sure always in there. And then either a strengths corner on workshops, speaking, a quote, just a few things that are the highlights of the week. This week, I put in the GIF that said, what would you do with $1 million? And said, email me. And I sent this last night. So I thought, okay, maybe I'll get some, maybe I won't. And I woke up this morning to this email, which I thought was just delightful. Subject is $1 million. My husband and I are 81 and 80. Since there is nothing we need, I think I would hire a personal chef for a month, a lawn service, and a cleaning lady. And then I would invite a lot of people over for dinner. I would prepay for a big funeral, both here in Minneapolis, and in Remsen, where I'm from. I would pass out $100 bills to people in line at the grocery store and at the gas station too. I would pay for people's meals at a restaurant. Oh, wait, I wouldn't have to go to a restaurant. Skip that. She has the chef. Right. Then I would pay for all my brothers and sisters and spouses to go on a cruise. That would come up to 19 people. Lastly, I would pay for a caregiver of my sister who just found out she has ALS, and whatever is left, I would give to my kids. Is that not wonderful?
I love that.
And she wasn't pushing any rules either. She literally went through, I have 1 month, and went through every step of what she would do to spend that $1 million in 1 month.
Right. I love it. That's great. The thing that she said about tipping, that would be fun.
That's a great idea.
Had like $100,000 of that set aside just to go and give big tips to people. Oh my gosh, that would be so fun.
And let's just say we're not going to bend any rules, right? It really isn't a month. Yeah. She had a lot of great ideas, chef, lawn, like just if you can't prepare it, just do it all. Teach whatever, invite everybody, go on the cruise, invite the family. I'm like, this is well thought out. I love this.
I love the hire the chef and invite people over every night. There's like people
and just hand out $100 bills.
Yeah. How much fun. Such a great email. I love that.
And back to what she values, and it is the last thing I'll say is it is interesting at different stages of life how we think about the $1 million, right? Because even though she'll give it to her kids, she's probably thinking, because her age, close to our parents' age, is my kids they got it figured out. They're now got their legacy, so she's thinking through. She's not putting them last, but she's thinking through at her age, how can everybody enjoy life and each other, versus you can see people of our age that kids still have student loans and you know,
Right.
retirement houses. And then I've got my young gal who's like $1 million won't go very far. When
Yeah.
you're 30 and
Yes,
you have a child that's, you know, if you take 100 grand a year,
right.
like that ain't gonna get them through school.
Yeah.
If that was gonna be around,
Right,
right?
right. And I love her thought that almost everything she talked about was about other people. Like,
Right.
how do I build these relationships while I'm at this age that I can celebrate these relationships and have fun with all the people that I love and care about?
And she likes to have fun. She wants to go on a cruise and the
I
handing
know.
out $100 bills. It's great.
I love it. I love it.
Okay,
Okay.
so now let's all get the $1 million.
I know, right? If
Who's
only
gonna fund this, Amy?
Wouldn't that be great if we could find somebody to sponsor us and give us each $1 million to just spend in a month? That would be very fun.
Never say
All
never.
right. This was a great discussion, Sandy. I think it's a good thing to ponder. And what comes to mind for you to bring it back to what your values are, and it'll help you identify. And I do think a little bit about this new wardrobe that I love, and what is the value in that, and what are my values that I want that. But I think it's okay. It's about feeling good, about
feeling
feeling
good.
like, yeah, feeling good about how you're expressing your personality. I think that's what it is for me.
Okay, so don't feel bad because I asked my
I
mom
don't feel bad.
on our last trip, I said, what do you miss most about work? And she said, the clothes, dressing up, buying
Yeah.
new clothes. And I'm like, 100%.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm not apologizing. And
Yeah.
I love how they look. I love the whole thing about clothing and variety. And it's part of my value proposition is fun. And
Right.
part of fun is how I feel, right? It's
Yeah.
joy. So yeah.
It's such an opportunity to express yourself
Right.
and be creative. And that's where I would love a stylist to help me, because I don't feel that I embrace that as much, because I don't have all the money to spend on a
Well,
wardrobe.
this
Anyway,
colors is
anyway,
supposed
it'd
to
be
be
fun.
something. Once you get your colors identified as the new
Right,
thing.
right, right. Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. All right. Great conversation. Thank you, Sandy.
$1 million conversation. Bye, Amy. I'll talk to you next week.